Good morning. Welcome to the first episode of Catapult Your Career, which is a podcast by myself, Michael Glassock, that I kind of hope to create and kind of share some really valuable insight to you, the listeners, around your career. And I suppose today this will be the first kind of introduction to myself, the podcast, what I hope to kind of achieve by it, and hopefully kind of share a little bit about myself, my personal kind of interests, and what you hope to kind of get from listening to this podcast. So, why is it called Catapult Your Career? It's all about kind of delving into various careers, various professions, and exploring practical advice that they would have given their younger self. And the reason why I've done this podcast is purely because it was something I really wish I had when I was younger. I know I'm only at the tender age of 28, but I feel like in those important years when I was pre and post university, this would have been really valuable to listen to people who were, crikey, marketers, kind of career coaches, developers, farmers, anything, just kind of real outlandish and different kind of professions. Because the more careers and professions I would have seen, the more kind of understanding I would have thought in terms of what is important to me and what I'm interested in. And I think, unfortunately, too many times, and I see this, very commonly with the clients I serve, being people in their kind of rough age of 25 to 35 who are kind of looking to transition careers. It's too often we chase what society deems as a success. And I often say this in kind of various podcast episodes I've either hosted or guested myself, where we chase kind of money, we chase reputation, we chase the prestige of a career in order to kind of be seen as successful amongst our peers, amongst society, and often to kind of cover up, things inside, internal kind of issues and challenges we face internally. So what you'll hope to expect, the podcast episodes will be roughly kind of 30 to 45 minutes. We've already got a career coach, a developer, a chief tech officer, analyst on as well. And we've got many more booked. I think we've got to have someone who runs their own marketing agency as well to talk about their experience. And most importantly, talk about what an average week looks like and what the tasks and activities they do. And with the hope that you as a listener, you will hear these tasks and think, what appeals to me? What are some of the things I like the sound of to really help kind of guide your own decisions? And I suppose that the reason why I have that heavy focus on tasks and activities, and it's something you'll often hear in the episodes we recorded, I kind of bang on it about it all the time, is if you were to watch a very popular series in Suits, which is on Netflix. I'm not paid by them, not yet anyway, which is talking about kind of the life of various people, one of which Harvey Specter, in terms of a lawyer, living kind of a lavish lifestyle and kind of going there, saving the day and being very brass, I suppose, or being out there, being very outward. And if you were to compare that to the reality of what a lawyer's job is, it would be, completely different. And I hope to kind of get a lawyer on this, on our podcast at a point in time. And it'd be interesting to kind of give that comparison to them. But often, a lot of the time, 75, maybe percent more is about reviewing kind of past court cases, papers, interrogating witnesses, all the rest of it, interrogating people that you're kind of representing to kind of get as much factual information you can. As opposed to the 5 minutes of kind of running around in lavish cars and being in the courtroom and all the rest of it. And that kind of teaches a real key lesson in terms of chasing tasks and activities you enjoy. And if you don't know, where are some jobs you can volunteer, you can do, you can gain experience to start to understand, increase that self-awareness and the things you like and dislike. So that when you then look at jobs, you'll focus on what tasks I enjoy that those jobs are doing, not just what the title is, what the reputation is, what the salary is. And of course, we all need to be paid a fair salary, and we all have financial goals that we're chasing. But first and foremost, making sure the foundations are set. So that's my aim for the podcast. It'll be a mix of kind of solo episodes with just myself, focusing on key aspects, as well as inviting guests from various professions and talking about careers. But a bit about myself, I suppose. Michael, I'm a career coach that kind of focuses on people who are 25 to 35 who are looking to transition careers. We give it various titles. We call them millennials, we call them other things. But really, it's that age bracket they've gone through what I call the quarter life crisis, which is where they go to university, college, whatever it is. They're told what courses they're kind of supposed to do by their parents, their close family, or what they think will make them look cool, I suppose. They kind of graduate from that formal education. They get a job, they get a couple of promotions, and then they realise they have that moment where they're sitting around, looking around, thinking, "Crikey, do I really want to do this for the rest of my life?" And that is partly what happened to me. In part, really, that along with a mix of other circumstances. My dad received a kind of a diagnosis around Alzheimer's, which is a very key life event that kind of shook up my life. And at the tender age, he's still only kind of 75. He was probably more in his early 70s when that diagnosis was received. It really made me kind of think about my life and think, it's a bit of a cliche, you only live once, and I think you have to take that with a pinch of salt. But it did make me think, I need to live my life with minimal regrets and do what I want to do, because very soon, this life will be over and I'll be looking back and saying, I wish I did this, I wish I did that. And for me, I try and embrace that philosophy of, I don't believe in failures, it's only learning. But I would rather try something and fail, as society would say fail. For me, I would say learn, than not do it at all and think, I wish I did that. I wish I did this. And that's why, I kind of fell into the world of coaching, I suppose. I've always been a curious person, always wanting to learn new things about myself, professionally, personally. And it was one particular podcast episode from a podcast I'm sure you've heard by Stephen Bartlett called Diary of a CEO. And he interviewed a chap called Jordan Peterson, who's a clinical psychologist, Canadian clinical psychologist. In some circles, a controversial figure, in others not. I think he speaks very direct and speaks a lot of truth, which I think the world needs more of. And his kind of talk about careers and making the most of life and that wider impact and fulfillment, that like the legacy you can leave, really spoke to me. And it was, rather than, I listen to countless podcast episodes every week, every month, there was something in particular about this episode that really spoke to me and made me kind of, sit on some of the thoughts and stuff I heard. And I listened to that podcast 2 or 3 times. And it made me realise, and that spoke to that quarter life crisis, this was similar time into the diagnosis from my father, made me realise, what am I trying to chase? What am I doing? What's my career? What are the things I want to get out of life? What is, who do I want to be in terms of a role model to my children, touch with, when that happens? What is the life I want to have lived? Because it's easy to talk, as we are doing now, but it's much harder to take action. And I thought to myself, when I have children, touch wood, I want my actions to speak louder than my words. And I want my career and the things I've done, the behaviours I've implemented, to kind of be a guiding light for them to live their own lives. And that's when I kind of entered a world of kind of interrogating my career and seeing what I want to get out of my life. And that is when I fell into the world of coaching. And I went into a very much black hole. I have tendencies of all or nothing. So I was watching countless YouTube videos, reading books, listening to podcasts, and I had the absolute pleasure of kind of falling into the world of Gillian McMichael, who runs Full Circle, and undertaking her coaching training. And as soon as I started that, within a month, I knew this is something I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to kind of have the sole focus, I suppose, of helping others. And this kind of speaks a lot to my own increased self-awareness around values and life purpose, which is something I commonly speak a lot on this podcast. And that coaching experience, I think they said I was very fortunate to be taught our main kind of teacher for the course. Although I suppose it's Gillian's company in terms of Full Circle, we were led by a lady called Naomi Bearcroft, who was absolutely incredible, and I have the joy to kind of still share a formal relationship with her now to kind of mentor me going forward. And Naomi was really kind of illuminating, and she said, this course will not only kind of help yourself personally, but will have a massive impact on kind of wider circles, your family and close friends. and it certainly has done that. And by going through that coaching process, you often need to have kind of lived a life or go through a period of kind of exploration yourself to then allow others to explore themselves. So have the right questions, the right tools in your toolkit to kind of help support people increase their self-awareness. And that kind of journey myself, and it is a constant journey. It will be with me for life, which I absolutely thrilled about. It will never kind of end. Help to unearth my own values. And those values for me are along lifelong learning, fulfillment, integrity, and freedom. And I'm sure I'll do a episode kind of deep diving on those values later down the line. But that lifelong learning piece, I suppose, is really important for me to kind of continue that curiosity. I had some curiosity in terms of my career once I listened to that podcast with Jordan Peterson, and I still have it to this day around kind of wanting to be the best version of myself, wanting to challenge my own ideas, seeking on purpose people who disagree with my viewpoints and listening to where they've got to that stance. And ultimately, that kind of led me, I suppose, on that journey to a wider why in terms of my purpose in life. What do I ultimately, we don't like to think about it, but what do I ultimately, when I'm on my deathbed and I'm looking back, do I want to kind of look back on my life and the purpose it serves? And that's when, again, I fell on to something I'm sure many listeners would have heard by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. And it's both a book and a TED Talk, so you can either read the book or listen to the TED Talk on YouTube. And it talks very much about various companies and how we kind of interact with people and our message and the importance of saying why we do things. Not how, but why we do things. And for me, it's talking about why am I a career coach? Why do I live the life I live currently? And why do I live the life I want to live going forward? And for me, simply, to be a career coach, my why is to inspire others to do what inspires them. And I think once you kind of unearth those values, unearth that kind of wider life purpose, it might sound cliche to some, and it's fair enough, but I think it's really powerful and it gives you a real kind of direction in terms of what you want to do. And ultimately, hopefully this podcast will teach you practicality, because I'm very much yes, coach can be seen a bit woo-woo, which I think the more you learn, the more you realise how powerful it is. But I equally balance that with a real kind of logical and practical insight to help others kind of move their lives forward and move their careers forward. So you'll get a real balance between hearing people's professions, hearing what their jobs are actually like, and equally hearing a bit more about the world of coaching and how I help people who are on that journey themselves, either have an aspiration of a job they want to transition to, or more commonly, know they're in a place where they're not feeling fulfilled, they're feeling demotivated, they're kind of stuck with the golden handcuffs, so stuck for the salary, stuck for the money, but realise there's more to life and more for them to do. And that's where I kind of come into my own to support people on that journey, through guiding them, through supporting them, and through challenging them. So thank you for listening to this initial kind of introduction to the podcast. I look forward to continuing this journey with you in terms of the further episodes. And I hope you have a lovely day.